The Chakitrix season finale just dropped, and it is sick in every sense of the word. 3 completely new sick aliens, each with bizarre symptoms straight out of the side effect episode in Classic, but twisted in ways that the fans have never seen before. And the cause that ties them together leads to the single biggest setup in Chakitrix history. Let's start at the beginning, where the girls got sick. So the cause of the aliens getting sick took place because somebody else in the RV caught a cold. This time it's not Ben who was in a freezer, but it was Kevin? This happened as an adverse side effect to Kevin's powers, that after he absorbed a lot of energy, he becomes fatigued and even gains a weakened immune system, hence getting a cold. Anyways, he sneezes wildly in the RV and the snot makes direct contact with a vitally important part of the Chakitrix, which is the faceplate or the core of the watch. And at that moment is where the virus that Kevin has was transmitted to the aliens. Pretty interesting thing to note is how the Chakitrix has this great juxtaposition to what happened in Classic, where it was like a sort of transmutation of the aliens' powers because of Ben's sickness, while the Chakitrix shows the watch itself getting sick. Kevin ends up being left alone by the Tennyson duo with Grandpa Max. Was his homemade remedy ready for him? But we'll get back to those two since very important stuff happens in that RV. Our first sick alien girl comes up once the gang leaves the RV though. But a very interesting villain steps in first. Clancy, the Bugman, storms a building being unveiled by the local mayor. He introduces himself as Dr. Clancy, the Bug Lord. Then he proceeds to complain, making his motives known that he wants some sort of revenge for his home being destroyed, which is exactly what happens in Classic. And after he captures the mayor, he attempts to flee the scene with her held captive. Clancy is wearing this super dope fit, which is much better than whatever we got in Classic. He dons the aura farming Plague Doctor outfit, which is such an interesting choice of clothing by the Chakitrix team. This is a 17th century fit that was worn by doctors during the bubonic plague outbreaks in Europe, which funny enough is an infection that was carried by fleas on rodents. That's quite interesting considering that Clancy controls bugs and is wearing protective wear from a virus that is carried by bugs primarily. After his attempted departure is where we get our first sickly alien, Wild Girl. She charges at Clancy in his general direction, but she runs right into a wall. Just like Wildmutt in the Classic series, because of her mucus buildup, she wasn't able to use her sensory powers to see anything, and it rendered her completely useless. In Classic, Gwen was able to hop on top of Ben and steer him clear of destroying himself and the rest of the area, but in this chapter, we get a very different move from Gwen, which is where she asks if Wild Girl even has eyes. Hence, logically, a stuffy nose shouldn't be the end of her powers. But after these two lift up her bangs, we get to see that she is very blind and has such a sweet human girl face. This makes me think of Toph for some reason, but her disability makes sense since I don't think Vulpamancers even have eyes, so of course she can't see. The duo continue their chase, but Ben decides to swap out aliens since Wild Girl is literally useless. In Classic, this is where we got a sick forearms. He had odd symptoms like hives under his armpits and a very nasally voice, topped off with a pungent odor. But here in the Chakitrix comic, it was very different. We actually got something new, which is a sickly ghost girl. She spawns out of the Chakitrix with none of those 4 symptoms, but instead with some serious trouble breathing. This all happens while Dr. Clancy gives his own backstory on how he became mutated and his own past. But none of that is helping poor Ghost Girl, who is struggling to comprehend how she's even short of breath if she doesn't even have lungs. Just like anyone else who has had that moment of having an issue catching their breath, she starts to get really scared and frantic. As she addresses that her human parts might interfere with the full use of her own powers, like that time when she showed us her boobs, like the time when she showed Zambozo her tentacles. It also has her having a crazy existential crisis about whether her true form will be coming back. I think this whole anxiety is a part of her symptoms of her sickness as well, but here's another thing that most English-speaking fans won't know. In Brazilian Portuguese, Ghost Freak's name is Fantasmatico, which translates directly to ghostly in English. He all have the best names, honestly. But there's a meme that calls her Fanta Asmatico, which is basically broken down to being Ghost Freak as Fanta with asthma, which is another influential piece for Ghost Freak's side effects of having symptoms of asthma. Anyways, doing all of this heavy breathing, Dr. Clancy escapes and is heading to the nuclear power plant. The Tennyson duo track him down, as this fool decides to take his revenge by leveling the entire city, and his plan for his own survival is to coat himself in cockroach armor. This moron really believed that one episode of Penguins of Madagascar. Oh my god.
The guy's gonna wear a bug suit to protect himself from the melt meltdown.
Anyways, our third alien revealed comes into clutch, but she is very, very different from what we've gotten during the entire run of the Jackatrix comic. Heartblast comes into the fray with a very sour expression on her face, as she looks pretty down and apathetic. Gwen gives us a very important detail about her too, is that she's actually very frosty and cold instead of emitting heat like usual. In the same breath, Dr. Clancy tries to scurry away, and he books it as fast as he can, but Heartblast is decisive and focused, and she freezes him in place. Hold on. Did she know that her powers would have frozen him, or... anyways, the Tennysons aren't completely out of the water though, as they need to stop the reactors from exploding. Gwen suggests using Heartblast's powers to clutch it up, but she seems so down, like she doesn't even care if the team dies or not. She eventually cools the core and saves the team, but she seems so unwilling. She might be a real goth girl of the group actually. Anyways, during the happenings of these sick girls, we get a very important reveal in the RV with Kevin and Grandpa Max. Now Kevin has been trying to find a way out of taking this putrid medicine that Grandpa Max is offering to him. This is a similar disgusting concoction that we got in the original episode. He opens a cupboard to get rid of it, and boom! It's the thing Grey Matter was building. It seems to have the shape of a Chronosapien time bomb. That's the object that erased every single Ben Tennyson in existence in the episode, and then there were none. Now, even though I doubt that's what it is, it still does seem like something that will be very, very important to the next chapter that will be featuring Grey Matter as the primary focus. But with Kevin throwing his medicine into it, that might ruin whatever Grey Matter has planned. However, what do you guys think of the sick aliens? Do you like the changes? Let me know, and thanks for watching. This chapter of the Jackatrix changes everything.